Meta blocks Apple Intelligence, Google is declared a monopoly again, and Synology's new requirements. This is MacVoices. This edition of MacVoices is supported by Insta360 and their new Insta360 X5 flagship camera. Visit store.insta360.com and use the promo code MacVoices to get a free invisible 114 centimeter selfie stick worth $24.99 with a standard package purchase. Limit first 30 standard package purchases only. MacVoices is supported by MacPaw, the makers of Clean My Mac, your ultimate solution for Mac control and care. Try Clean My Mac for 7 days free, then use the code MacVoices20 for 20% off at cleanmy.com/MacVoices. That's clnmy.com/MacVoices. Kind of in the reverse of this, Meta blocks Apple Intelligence on Facebook and other iOS apps. So these two kind of came up in my feed close to each other, and it can't help me, makes me wonder. But since Apple said what they did about Meta, then Meta suddenly blocks Apple Intelligence. More importantly, is this a trend we're going to see, that certain services have their own version of a smart assistant or smart assistants, and so they're going to block what Apple can do within those services or while using those services? Again, this bothers me a little bit because I feel like it's somebody trying to change my experience because of the hardware choice that I've made. I don't know. Marty, you look like you're ready to.
I just love it when the neighbors fight because it makes for such an interesting block party when we're all together. The fact that Meta is blocking Apple, Apple's saying I can't trust Meta. It's just fun. It's professional wrestling on the technology level. I think we're going to wind up getting. The article does make a point that we're going to wind up getting certain LLM services and certain AI services that are going to be channeled down one direction or one platform. And they're not going to play nice together because the platform's going to be able to control that. And if you're on this platform, guess what? You've got this, and this is your access to AI. If you're on this platform, then you don't have two of those, but you've got one of those and then two others. I think that's how the market's going to segment them out.
Marty, you're getting to something that that you said it much more eloquently than I can or did. The idea that depending on which service, I may be forced into using a particular large language model. Maybe it's one that I have a beef against. Maybe it's one that I don't trust. Maybe it's one that I'm not comfortable because I think that they are using my content to train their own models.
Yeah.
Arguably, maybe they all are. I don't know. But it feels like, suddenly I have to pay even more attention to the terms of service so I know what I'm doing and who I'm giving permission to do what with whatever it is I'm saying. So that just feels wrong.
Yeah, ultimately it comes down to who do you trust your data with? You're hopefully going to make decisions around that versus what LLMs they're using, only because LLMs are going to advance pretty much in the same direction in the same pace. It's just what they do with your data, as you said, Chuck, and what privacy do you have with that data is, again, platform based.
Brian?
Yeah, kind of along those same lines. I was just looking in the article, and towards the end, it talks about how when Apple was willing to partner with, I guess, Meta's AI Llama, but they scrapped it because of the privacy policies with Meta. And so when I really think about that, it's really I was thinking about the data that it captures, and how You have one company that wants to, protect your privacy, and my understanding of the deal they have with OpenAI Chat GPT is, Apple's kind of that intermediary. They're using that information. Then everything that Chat GPT sees is, or yeah, that they see from Apple is just saying it's from Apple. Not necessarily from you. As an individual. And I guess that doesn't work well for the business model that Meta has.
Again, from Mark Fuccio in the chat room, Meta's actions makes no sense. They are punishing their users. They have no competitive product. It's just small-minded pettiness. Mark, they have Llama, and you don't know. I don't know how they have deployed Llama behind the scenes for their own uses. And we know what they've given end users, but we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, or how it's being trained, or what their future intentions are for it. So I think at the moment, I would agree with your comments. I don't know what else is coming though. And Barry, this is an interesting comment. That's just an inconvenience. One could always compose text using writing tools in Genmoji, etc., in other apps, and then just copy and paste the results into a post. Yeah, you're absolutely right, but that sort of defeats the whole purpose of having the built-in tools to help you do whatever you want to do on the platform. So yes, it's a workaround, and it's one that if you feel strongly enough about what you can do with Apple Intelligence, you would use. But it just sort of feels like it's adding friction instead of taking away friction. So, Eric, you're looking thoughtful.
Well, I sometimes wonder how much of this isn't Facebook going and writing an app to prevent Apple's tools from working versus Facebook just using a bunch of tools that don't support the standard text objects that Apple has. And because of that, it's not available to the tools. Not because it's intentionally not available, but just because they went off in left field and used some other tool to write the app.
That's a really interesting point. But, well, we've seen Facebook do some really interesting things, that were kind of offbeat. So, yeah, it's possible. I think you're giving them a lot of credit, but it's possible. David, Brian, anything else before we move on?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Under the glaringly obvious file, Google is once again deemed a monopoly, this time in ad tech. So if there was any doubt about the previous ruling about them being a monopoly, I think it's going to kind of be hard for anybody to say that they're not a monopoly in ad tech, especially when it comes to display ads or web advertising, because it just seems like everything runs through Google.
Yep.
Nothing. Is it just a yep and move on?
It does. I mean, they are a monopoly because you see Google ads everywhere. I mean, it's how do you compete with that? And yeah, I kind of agree with the decision that they need to explore what can be done about Google and have its monopoly on this. Why? I mean, maybe they got to break it up. They've done this to other companies before. Why not Google? I mean, it's just a shame that you can't really compete with them at this point. Now, one good thing is you got ChatGPT beating them in the AI world right now, because I think ChatGPT is much better than Gemini ever is. But then again, you're seeing Gemini Google partner with things like, I see it on Shark Tank. They're partnering with them and partnering with other big media to get people more using of this, because entrepreneurs have been using Gemini to show how that works. So where does it stop? When it comes to their monopolistic tendencies. With the ad world is it's hard to beat it. It really is.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, first of all, I had to look to see if it still existed. AdSense used to be the way that we all started to try to monetize our websites. And I guess it's still in use to some degree, but you don't hear anyone talk about it anymore because it just Google. I'm not sure they hobbled it, but it just became no longer useful. It was easier to go out and try to monetize your website other ways. But the thing, and I'm just trying to get this. Oh shoot! I was trying to find a link that this applies to, but I'm going to throw this in. I know. Pardon me. I'll tell you right now. I already know that this isn't one that you can completely read, but this is the Bloomberg article because I just heard this in a podcast on the way back from dinner. Google paid Samsung, quote unquote, enormous sums for the Gemini AI app to be installed on their phones.
Right.
And this is, I mean, this was news today, I think, or at least I heard it today.
Oh, yeah.
So
let's blocked Bloomberg.
yeah. Okay, here's one from Engadget that looks like you can actually read it. Whoops. But you know, I'm sitting and thinking, Apple's drawing fire for, and Google both. The two of them were drawing fire for Google I'm just doing it wrong. Google paying Apple to be the search engine on the iPhone. Right. And yet here's Google paying Samsung enormous sums, and it apparently was not revealed in court what enormous sums are. But it seems like Google, is trying this just from a different angle. They're trying to, as David, as you said, they're trying to leverage their AI into the Samsung phones, since they may be ruled as a monopoly in search, or maybe their search revenue is starting to dry up.
Yep.
I don't know, Marty.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Engadget article, and they also managed to pull in Epic Games from some testimony that was done previously from another case. Epic Games indicated that Google handed over $8 billion from 2020 to 2023 to ensure that Google Search, the Play Store, and Google Assistant were used by default on Samsung mobile devices. So when is enough enough? They've been repeatedly ruled in various cases as being a monopoly and that they need to be broken up. And I just don't know if this latest case that's come out is going to do it. And will the DOJ, again, trying to avoid the politics of it, but will the DOJ take action on this?
Marty, I don't know. And I have to wonder, is it in everyone's best interest for them to quote unquote break up Google? And along what lines do they break it up? And if they break off the ad business, okay, the search business feeds the ad business, and so it might become a little less effective. But it's funny how tech has a way of working its way around so many things. So, Dave, I'm sorry, I think I interrupted you.
No, I'm good.
Okay. Brian, Eric, anybody have a dog in this fight as far as Google being a monopolist?
It's not too many comments, just the idea, though, that it really does look very difficult in all these different areas for other companies to compete, and it's, if you were, even half the size that they were and trying to be able to get involved, how are they competing? Marty, I was just reading that part that you had mentioned about handing over $8 billion, over that 4-year span. How does another company compete with that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a paid placement, but it didn't mean that it meant that definitely there were people that were going to use it because it was on there. But it did not, as I didn't see anything that said it precluded me from installing ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity or any of the others on those phones. It just, it was the default thing. And so, I feel like we're back to some of the discussions we've had about Apple having their default apps be their apps be the defaults on the iPhone. And does it feel different because Google is not Samsung?
Yeah, that's where I would draw the distinction a little bit, but it's a fine line for sure.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Mark Vucci in the chat room says he threw a couple in there. Being a monopoly is not illegal. Using it to tie purchases of products is. Microsoft did it with their browser. Google is doing it with their ad platforms. Okay, I'll go with that. And he also said that I don't use Google for search. I'm sorry. Yes, I use one of the LLMs, Claude, DeepSeek. DeepSeek, really, Mark? ChatGPT, Perplexity, or Copilot, depending on the topic. Okay, Mark, I got to poke a little fun with you. So you're more comfortable with Copilot, a Microsoft product, and DeepSeek with all its issues than you are with Google? Really? I mean, it's your choice, but wow. Okay. Anybody else surprised at that? Okay. That he does or doesn't know about? Is that what you're saying? Yeah. So out of curiosity, who here is and forget your work situations, who's using Claude at all? Okay. Who's using DeepSeek? Okay. Who's using ChatGPT? Wow. Okay. Who's using Perplexity? I've played with it, but I can't always say I'm a user.
My camera.
Yeah.
Raise my hand.
Yeah. And Copilot.
I did use Copilot a little bit, but
I use both.
not directly using. I mean, we're excluding work situations. Just for personal. I had used Copilot a little bit, but as the improvements kept coming with ChatGPT, I just switched over to that.
Okay. Mark commented, Cletus had made a comment, and he responded that Claude is from Anthropic, which is backed by Amazon, which I have to admit, I don't think I realized that. So I don't know to what degree they're backed, but it doesn't surprise me at all.
So what's the remedy for the Google problem? I mean, everybody seems to agree, yes, it's a monopoly, but then how do you fix it? I mean, is it enough to say they can no longer have control of a browser?
Well, or do you try to put up, a Chinese wall? Sorry about that. Do you try to put up a Chinese wall between the search and the ads so that the ad business theoretically becomes less effective because it doesn't have as much information on who's surfing for what? So it can still serve you ads. It just can't serve you ads as effectively. But the point about the browser is a great one. If you don't know, this work, I swear we sound so paranoid, but how much information is Google getting when you use Chrome or Chromium or a Chromium-based browser? How much can it track that? Again, programmatically, nobody's sitting there watching it. That would be crazy. But I don't know. But you can't help but wonder because that information has to come from somewhere. Today's MacVoices is supported by Insta360 and their new Insta360 X5 flagship camera. Visit store.insta360.com and use the promo code MacVoices to get a free invisible 114 centimeter selfie stick worth $24.99 with a standard package purchase. Limit first 30 standard package purchases only. If creating content is part of your workflow, or if you just want to capture every angle without wasting time setting up the perfect shot, the Insta360 X5 is the tool you need to work smarter, not harder. The Insta360 X5 is the new flagship 360-degree camera delivering stunning 8K video with incredible clarity, even in low light. Whether you're filming business presentations, product demos, or on-the-go vlogs, you'll never miss a moment or an angle. Just shoot first and point later. The X5 captures everything around you, and with the AI-powered tools in the Insta360 app, you can easily reframe your footage to get exactly the shot you need, when you need it. Need that how did they get that perspective? The invisible selfie stick gives you drone-like third-party views without ever showing up in your shot, perfect for dynamic content that stands out without extra gear or setup time. And with the replaceable lenses and up to 185 minutes of battery life, the X5 is built for durability and efficiency, so you can focus on creating, not worrying about your equipment. Here's the best part. You can get more for your money right now. To score a free 114cm invisible selfie stick worth $24.99 with your Insta360 X5 purchase, head over to store.insta360.com and use the promo code MacVoices. But act fast. It's only available for the first 30 standard package purchases. Capture more, edit smarter, and let the Insta360 X5 streamline your content creation. Thanks to Insta360 for supporting MacVoices. MacVoices is supported by MacPaw, the makers of Clean My Mac, your ultimate solution for Mac control and care. Try Clean My Mac for 7 days free. Then use the code MacVoices20 for 20% off at cleanmy.com/MacVoices. Are you spending more time fighting with your Mac than getting things done? It's time to take control with Clean My Mac, the ultimate productivity partner for your Mac. Crafted by MacPaw, a trusted name in Mac OS software since 2008, and notarized by Apple, the all-new Clean My Mac has evolved beyond simple cleanup. It's now a full care solution designed to keep your Mac running at peak performance, so you can stay focused on what matters. With Smart Care, you get one-click optimization that clears out the clutter and tunes up your system. No tech degree required. The My Clutter feature finds and removes duplicate downloads hiding in your folders. The cleanup tool wipes away system junk, cache files, and development leftovers that slow you down. Worried about security? The built-in Moonlock anti-malware engine protects your workspace by detecting and removing threats before they become distractions. Plus, the Assistant and Menu app gives you proactive tips to prevent battery drains, overheating, and other productivity killers. If your Mac is your office, studio, or command center, why let digital clutter and hidden issues steal your time? Keep your Mac tidy with Clean My Mac. Try it for 7 days free and use my code MacVoices20 for 20% off at cleanmy.com/MacVoices. That's CLNMY.com/MacVoices. Get back to working smarter with Clean My Mac. Thanks to Clean My Mac for supporting MacVoices. I feel obligated at this point to look up an article that I read from Ars Technica. Last week we talked about Microsoft's recall coming back. And if you did not see that article or read it, go back and read it. It's well worth it. This week, Ars had a look at the recall feature in Windows in depth, much more in depth, I should say. And even that, it indicated some of the good things that Microsoft has done with it, and why it's not as bad as it originally was. But that said, it still made me very uncomfortable. I'm going to throw it here in the chat room so y'all can get with it. But this was in depth. It'll take you a little while. And if you're not a Windows user, you're going to yawn and say, I don't get it. But at the end of the day, it's the author, who is a different author, by the way, than the article from last week, and I'll make sure I have both in the show notes. He can't endorse recall, and there are some real concerns still about it. But the thing that I don't think I completely understood is that it is in there. It will be scanning, taking screenshots of your computer every few seconds, and then using OCR to determine what the material is, and then put it into a database that is inside your machine. But, and so supposedly that is secure, but it doesn't consider passwords. It doesn't consider bank account information or anything. It's just sucking it all up and stuffing it in there. And so if you're looking at this, believe me, the comments on a couple of these articles are worth their weight in gold. I mean, they're a riot. And I realize, yes, we jumped off onto Microsoft from where we were, but it just feels like that everybody is trying to grab everything and monetize it. But that's the big name of the game. So, for what it's worth. Let me throw those right quick into the, I want to make sure I don't lose either one of those. Okay, I'm not going to like me. All right. Technical issues. So this was another one that Mark Fuccio brought to our private Slack, and I'm going to throw it out here. And this is another one of those that I personally can argue both ways, but I want to hear what you all have to say about it. But Synology has announced that their higher-end NAS devices will now require Synology branded drives, and that eventually they will publish an approved list of drives to be put into these devices. So if I buy a Synology device, I can't just take hard drives I have and stick in it. I have to now buy drives from them, or wait until I get an approved list and then maybe buy those drives. David, you're muted. I'm sure it was really intelligent.
I said, but it says higher end. Does everybody buy higher end? I mean, that's what I was when I saw this article. I said, yeah. I mean, my Synology is a little the low end, but there's low and mid priced Synologies, but those are the absolute high end. Maybe they're insisting on that. I don't agree with it. I think you should have every right to put whatever drive you choose into a Synology. And I would agree with Mark on that. He said that this is kind of cruddy that they're doing this, but who buys the higher end? Do you get the higher end of those devices are probably going to be professional photographers, a lot of professional folks that need that kind of solid device, whereas others can live with the mid end or the low end.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have a Synology sitting behind me, and the drive bays are about maxed out.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, well, should I go from a 2-bay to a 4-bay, giving me some more space to work with? I can take the drives out of this and throw it in the 4-bay, and then get another 2 drives and have some more space on it. And I don't know what to do right now. I'm kind of confused. First, which one do I select? And two, am I going to wind up just having 2 Synologies because I can't take the data off my old one in any format and easily put it into the new one without doing some massive transfers. So I'm going to sit on it for a while.
Well, the article says an 8 terabyte, 3.5-inch hard drive from Synology's Plus line costs $210 on Synology's website.
Oof.
One of the original drives, the HAT 3310, which is apparently the same model as the Synology, is reportedly sourced from Toshiba and can be found for $173 at more than one vendor. So, are you getting a premium? And once again, this is just a press release, so we don't have the details. But I know that in the Drobo days, I mean, they had some restrictions on what drives they suggested you put in. If memory serves, and Mark Fuccio, you can comment on this in the chat room if I'm wrong, but a lot of that had to do with whether they were 7,200 RPM versus 5,400 RPM drives, because the 5,400s wouldn't always spin up fast enough to make the device reasonable, or in some cases, certain drives would spin down, and that would seriously hamper performance. So I respect Synology for what I think they're trying to do. If they're trying to just make sure that especially their high-end devices perform the way they want to and are advertised to, as opposed to maybe being hobbled by putting cheap drives in. That said, I've got a couple two bays here, Synologies, so I'm going to assume that they are not high end, and it doesn't really matter what I put in those. But I also have a 6-bay. Is that a high end?
Guess you have to look on Synology's website, look at the model number, see what it really is.
Yeah, yeah, we've got some research to do on this one.
Yeah, I know mine's low end. I'm good.
Yeah. And again, I respect Synology for what they're trying to do. Yeah, you're going to be paying a premium price, but I would hope then that means that I get a premium product and premium service with it. Brian?
Yeah, when I was reading that too, there's a lot to still find out, I guess. But I just wonder if this would be something that would eventually move down. But just in hearing the conversation, maybe it won't. Maybe it is just going to stay at the higher end based on the rationale of why they're doing it. But I don't have one, but it has been something that's been recommended to me and I've been thinking about. But this also is allowing me to look at maybe some other brands and different options too for what I might use it for.
Yep.
If we're going to talk alternatives, and Cletus, I think, said this earlier in the discussion, Other World Computing, OWC, has some great options, and at least at the moment, they will make recommendations, but they allow you to mix and match drives of all kind with their soft grade product that is the software behind it. So it might be a place to look. And OWC has also some very impressive high-end things. So do your research. Sorry, Marty.
Yeah, I'm really stuck on, for me, shifting from a Drobo to Synology. The interface in the Synology is user-friendly. It's easy to figure out. It's easy to manage. And that's what has always, since I switched, attracted me to the product. So I'm afraid if I go with another product, I'm not going to have that kind of interface. Drobo is basically a drive service. Didn't have all of the stuff with it, at least the version that I had. So,
yeah, I mean, Synology's products are amazing because of all the software that they put into them. I mean, you can turn them into web servers or cloud devices or surveillance stations. I'm drawing a blank now. I mean, I think there are at least a dozen and a half, if not more, options on what you can do with your Synology with their native software. And in some cases, or in most cases, you can a Plex server. So there are a lot of things you can do with it. And
I run my Plex server on it.
Yeah, that are built-in features. Now you can also take some other drives and press those into service for Plex or some of these other things using other software. So yeah, I'm not quite ready to condemn Synology for this because I don't think it's a condemnation thing. I just think it's maybe them trying to exert control over their processes and hardware, just like Apple tries to control the processes and the hardware.
Yep.
So, Brian, I'm sorry. Did you? Are we done? Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm getting confused as to where we were. Oh, that's interesting. So Mark says his storage solutions, 18 terabyte Western Digital MyBooks connected to a Mac Mini. So I'm assuming you mean two of them, Mark, but I don't know how you are configuring them. And I would be terrified of losing 18 terabytes of data.
It comes, it goes.
I've got 12 and 14 gig terabyte drives in mine.
Well, Mark, if you're using DeepSync, you can always get it back from if the data blows, you've got your friends across the pond that can help you find it.
Wow. This is a tough bunch.
Just
And
Marty.
Webb Bixby has checked in, and he is apparently, he says he's like a Zen pizza. I am one with everything. Webb, have you been into the wine? What's that? I don't even know what that means. Weird night. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.